Turning now to Pakistan, where Nobel Laureate Malala Yousafzai has urged Muslim leaders to not legitimize the Afghan Taliban government. Speaking at a summit on girls' education in Muslim nations, Yousafzai asked leaders to recognize the Taliban as perpetrators of gender apartheid. The Nobel Peace Prize laureate also drew attention to the plight of children in Gaza, saying that Israel has decimated the entire education system in its war with Hamas, which carried out the October 7th terror attacks. Let's get more on this story from DW's reporter Binesh Javid. Binesh, we have Malala back in her home country, Pakistan. Can you tell us a little bit more about her speech at this summit?
Claire, what Malala tried to do in her speech was connect religion, Islam, with the basic fundamental value of seeking knowledge. In the beginning of her speech, she used a Quranic verse to emphasize that Islam encourages women, men, girls and boys to seek knowledge, to grow. And then she condemned the Afghan Taliban by criticizing them and saying that Afghan Taliban are weaponizing Islam, are weaponizing the faith and the religion of Islam to suppress women. She called them an extremist regime. And Claire, it's important that these words are coming from Malala Yousafzai. We have to remember that in 2012, many years ago, when she was just 15 years old, she was shot by an extremist, a member of an extremist group, Pakistan Taliban. And that's the group that has pledged allegiance to Afghan Taliban. And she was shot because Pakistan, at that time of Pakistani Taliban, were bombing girls' schools in her city, in her region. And she was brave enough to speak up, and they wanted to silence her. And today we know that the world recognized her as an activist, a world activist who's working for girls' education in many African countries, also in Pakistan and other parts of the world. Let's have a listen to what she said at the conference.
The Taliban do not see women as human beings. They cloak their crimes in cultural and religious justification. But let us be absolutely clear. There is nothing Islamic about this. These policies do not reflect the teachings of Islam. In fact, they go against everything our faith stands for.
So Malala, they're really addressing the leaders of Muslim-majority countries. What can they actually do to pressure the Afghan Taliban to ease these restrictions on girls' education?
So Claire, first of all, she asked the Muslim leaders that they should recognize the Afghan Taliban as perpetrators of gender apartheid and should not legitimize them. She also urged them to support crimes against humanity treaty and hold Afghan Taliban accountable. And then she urged the Muslim leaders and Muslim scholars to come united with a strong voice condemning what Afghan Taliban are doing. We know that several international human rights groups, several Western powers have criticized the Afghan Taliban. But what she's saying is that it will be much more meaningful when Muslim leaders and Muslim communities join hands and condemn and speak up for Afghan women.
Binesh, talk to me a little bit also about the situation in Pakistan itself, where Malala was delivering this speech. It, too, has big issues when it comes to access to education for millions of girls, right?
Yes, and it's very interesting that Pakistan is hosting this conference, and the Prime Minister of Pakistan himself admitted that there are millions of children in Pakistan that are out of school. Actually, we have a report prepared from Pakistan that gives us a sign of what's happening in Pakistan when it comes to education of children. Let's have a watch.
This classroom in a Pakistani village represents a giant leap in access to education for its residents. It's the first time in decades that a school has been open here, but that wasn't the only hurdle teachers had to jump over.
Some parents thought their children should work in the fields instead of studying. Earning money was seen as more valuable. The first thing that we did was go door to door to make them understand that education is very important and it's valuable.
Pakistan has one of the world's highest rates of children out of school. Over a third don't attend school, with girls even less likely to do so. The majority are in rural areas, according to official government figures.
For us, education wasn't important, but we want our kids to be educated and get out of here, to do something for themselves and the country.
Poverty, inadequate infrastructure, underqualified teachers, cultural barriers, and the impacts of climate change are some of the reasons why children don't attend school. In rural areas, many of the children study, but they also have to help support their families.
Children in the city spend all their time studying, while we also have to work. They have access to facilities that we don't, and unlike us, they don't have to work as labourers or in the fields.
There is hope, though, with Pakistan's Prime Minister declaring an education emergency, increasing the budget to boost the number of children in the country's classrooms.
Vinesh, tell us more about what's going on here. Why are there so many children out of school in Pakistan?
Yeah, Claire, it's roughly around 26 million children in Pakistan don't go to school. That's 39% of the whole children in Pakistan. And Pakistan is a country of around 240 million people. So that's a huge crisis, education crisis that Pakistan is facing. And there are several reasons. Of course, education has not been a priority for many governments. Pakistan has a very low budget when it comes to education. And even though, as we have seen in the report, that the Prime Minister has announced this education emergency and funds have been increased, but it's still not enough, the kind of crisis that we have. Poverty is also, of course, a big reason. There are many, infrastructure is a huge problem. There are many villages and remote areas in Pakistan where many children, the only reason children are not getting education is because there are no schools in their vicinity. So infrastructure is a problem. Poverty, even in public schools where education is free, there are people who are still unable to send children to school because they can't pay for lunch, they can't pay for uniform, they can't pay for books. And we know that Pakistan has been going through an economic crisis. So there is enough poverty that people are just, many of people chose to not send children to school. So all of these structural problems need to be fixed. And I hope that conferences like these can maybe emphasize the importance of education that countries like Pakistan need.
So a confluence of factors at play there. Vinesh, thank you for spelling that all out for us. That's our reporter, Vinesh Javid, here with me in the studio.